So, before we begin, can you like introduce yourself in case like people?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Tessa. I've been diagnosed with NPD twice. I am about 25. I'm an aspiring psychologist to treat these stigmatized disorders. Yeah, rooting for me. And I became self-aware when I went through a psychedelic experience that basically destroyed my ego. It was ego dissolution. And ever since then, my life has been kind of unraveling, and I've been, I guess, what they would call a collapsed narcissist. Like all my defenses fell apart. And so I was able to see the insides of, like, I was able to become self-aware, basically. And now I'm online to show people what I've found out. I'm also healing myself because this is a miserable thing to go through. It's miserable to have NPD. People don't really talk about that side of it. Um, but yeah, I'm really just here to share as much as I can. I've also had partners on the other end. I know how I've affected them and stuff, and I've seen the whole thing. So I'm just here to, give out as much as I can to help people understand. Yeah.
Before like we continue, could you talk a little bit about the collapse narcissist thing? Because it sounds really like
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. If you've never heard of that, so there's this thing called narcissistic collapse, which is basically where somebody's defenses just fall apart because of a life stressor that is too big. Basically, reality catches up
Mm-hmm.
to the NPD, who's usually running away from their own feelings, their own emotions, their own traumas, because there's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anything. It can be like the death of somebody. It can be losing a major job. It can be, psychedelics, which was what it was for me. But what ends up happening is the person starts to spiral because they start losing their defenses. They become aware of what's underneath. For example, take anger as an emotion. There are always emotions underneath anger that are waiting, and they're more scary emotions, like maybe shame or fear
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Those are the things people with NPD run away from because it's really, really intense
Mm-hmm.
for us. So a collapse involves actually coming face to face with how they really are, what they really feel. And, there's windows of self-awareness there that if somebody with NPD enters therapy, I believe they could be helped. But a lot of them run away. It's a lot to face. It's a lot to face. I've been through it all. It's been 3 years for me since I've been self-aware, 3.5 years. Yeah.
Okay, you know what I find really impressive that you seem awfully young to be that self-aware.
I know. I honestly, I don't know if you're spiritual, but I feel
I'm
like I
very
was.
spiritual. I'm a crystal therapist.
Yeah, I love that. I am too. I feel like I was put here to help other narcissists. I currently have a borderline client. I currently have a narcissist client. They're reoccurring. They come back to me many times to get help. Like, I think that because I'm so young, it gives me the chance to really like figure out, like, I always say, if there's a way out of this disorder, I'll be the one to find it. Because yes, I did realize, yeah, yeah, and I want to lead other people there because, you know, people with NPD are just as terrified inside as, you guys feel. Like, there's so much, like, but they don't want to, they can't admit it, they can't see it. Like, there's a lot of um I'm curious if you want me to explain what I think NPD is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I read something recently where, if a young child isn't allowed to separate from their parent, let's say they have a controlling parent, or, a parent that doesn't see them emotionally, someone that can't see what their child is going through or denies what their child is going through, that child can't ever separate and become a separate person, separate sense of self. And before babies separate from their parents, they, you know, they're not able to see others as separate people. I mean, think about that. That's a major problem for people with NPD. They don't see you. You know what I mean? They don't see you as like a, like, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, no one. There's like three people
Well,
here
I
now,
think
but
we all do relate a little bit. Okay, keep going, keep going.
yeah, but it's like if you've ever felt like your partner or family member or whatever with NPD cannot see you, it's because they really can't, because they're stuck at this really, really low level. Like, they've never grown up, basically. They froze as a child.
Right.
And so I want to be able to help people facilitate the process of like actually growing again, because I think that when people aren't able to see you, if you're
Mhm.
still stuck, and you're not able to see people except as extensions of yourself, you can do a lot of damage to people unknowingly. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
of course.
yeah, I hope I'm explaining this well.
That makes
Because I
sense.
know there's like a difference in, yeah, yeah, thank you.
I mean, like, okay, technically, could you talk a little more about the part where you see other people as your extension? Because, um,
Well, yeah, it's like a young child. A young child only sees people to like meet their needs,
mhm,
what they like get, like, like toddlers, for example, they don't really have developed empathy. And it's
right.
same for people with NPD. They a lot of times, because you're already afraid of like because of the trauma that you've been through, you're already afraid of connecting to your partner, of letting them in. There's a lot of avoidance.
Hmm.
You just relate to people as, oh, what can they give me? What can I get from this person? How can they make me feel? And sometimes you think you're caring about a partner, but it's you're actually caring about how they make you feel. It can like how do I put this?
I
It's
think it all
really
makes sense, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would say like this is why I preach that narcissists, it's like a mental illness, it's like a brain disorder because like they really cannot see you as separate from them unless they go into therapy and they start growing. And like they like when I was unself-aware, I genuinely believed I was caring about my partners even as I was crossing all of their boundaries. There's like a serious lack of self-awareness. You
Right.
don't know. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Totally. So, but in that moment, you do believe that you care, right?
Yeah, there's a genuine feeling of like, you know, being a caring partner and there's this expectation on your partner to be like, oh, if you really loved me, you'd just take care of all my needs. But a lot of times those needs, dismiss another person's needs. It's very, yeah, I honestly feel like people with NPD just never had the chance to have a functional model for a relationship. A lot of times the parents did not have a functional relationship, so how would they know how to empathize with you if they would have never been empathized with, you know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like,
Me.
yeah, it's a lot bigger of a problem than just people with NPD choosing to be awful people. I think that's one of the main messages I want to spread. There's so much articles out there about, oh, it's calculating, they choose to do this, it's whatever. It's way worse, actually. It's almost like narcissists live in a fantasy, you know? And to break that fantasy, it's the most painful thing. That's what happened why I call myself a collapsed narcissist. It's because the bubble pops, if you go through enough. Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I know, but like, but I'm also glad, but I'm sorry.
No, I know. Thank God, 'cause now she can tell us everything. But well,
Uh,
yeah.
I
And
mean, has that like changed anything for you personally, like in your relationships? Like, how do you?
yeah.
I mean, it sounds so difficult now that you're aware because you can't really be that delusional now, can you?
Yeah, it's difficult, but here's the thing. Well, I went through phases. When I first became self-aware, I was so bitter because I actually had a life going for me. You know how people with NPD can be functional, but it's like within the disorder. I
Uh-huh.
was, I was, I had friends, I was going to college, I was very performative, but I had this whole life going for me. My
Mhm.
ego death ruins that. Like it brought me in touch with my fear. And I was so afraid of like being
Oh,
humiliated. I could not leave the house. And then like I started, you know, God, how do I even describe that journey? Maybe we can go into it later with questions. But at first, I was really bitter. And then I realized something that I was given a second chance to love, a second chance to learn to heal, a second chance to actually feel alive because this disorder sucks the soul out of you. Like, you don't feel alive. You don't feel it's really bad. So I actually feel blessed. Like 3 years later, of course, it was awful while I was going through it. But yeah, my relationships are actually improving and it's insane. And it gives me so much hope because, if I can tell people, yeah, if I can tell people how I do this, you know, maybe, I can lead other people with NPD into the light, I suppose, because it's a really awful. way to live. They may act like nothing is wrong, but I did that too. It's like a denial. It's like, oh no, this is a great way to live. No, it's not. No, it's not. No. Go
I
ahead.
I personally with the narcissistic people in my life, I could feel physically feel the sort of emptiness and void, and I felt bad. And I know the sympathy is not something they usually want either, but like I could feel it, and it sucked for me to like see that as well. And I don't think anyone chooses to be disordered. I don't know. That makes no sense. Like I don't know why someone would willingly choose to be a certain way, right? It's just that's the thing. And yeah.
It's a reaction. It's sad because it's a reaction to usually caregivers not giving the child the care that they deserved. And the only way to survive that type of childhood is to develop the defensive NPD. So it is like less like a choice, but um yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Course, it totally does. So, how would you recommend someone with empathy or narcissistic traits to kind of break out of the bubble? Because it sucks, but I mean,
Oh
you gotta do it.
God. If I could answer that, I would have like a cure in a bottle. I'm just kidding. If there's any, here's the thing. It is so difficult. It's the one thing that it almost feels like the universe gives to narcissists because there are so many times my partner,
Mhm.
5 years ago used to tell me like you need to go to therapy, and I'd be like, you're ridiculous, you're the neurotic one, like are you
Uh,
seriously telling me I need to go to therapy? Like I have a functional life, I have this and that. It made no sense to me. I wasn't even aware of it,
mhm.
um of like suffering seriously because that's how things go. But the universe almost is the one, I feel like a lot of times, that comes along. The partners try and try to like get the person to realize they need help, but it's only when they know they need help that something's going to happen. When they've reached their breaking point, usually when they can't deny that they're suffering,
Mhm.
when they can't deny that their relationships have fallen apart or like whatever, it's like that's the point where people with NPD end up in therapy, and usually it's just life. And I don't know if this is some karmic thing, but it's just life that, and it's really difficult because there's so many people that are like, how can I tell my person with narcissistic traits just like a little sentence that'll make them realize and go into therapy? If I find it, I'll let you know. Because
Absolutely. Oh, what
yeah,
I am really glad that you want to be a psychologist, though. I just have to say that because I think
yeah.
you want more people with disorders being psychologists because they know the fucking struggle, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's barely anyone treating this stuff. So it's such a nightmare in this world right now because even if you get your partner into therapy,
Uh-huh.
the therapist most likely doesn't know how to treat NPD. So we definitely need more people, and I'm going to be working on that because, you can't have like an ADHD therapist treating NPD. You can't have like, you
That's
know,
good.
it takes a lot of specialization. It's very hard. But yeah.
Actually, that reminded me. I've seen something quite similar with people with ADHD and NPD. In fact, weirdly, every person I know NPD also has ADHD. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
anything.
it's very interesting. I would love to do some more research on that. I feel like maybe it is that it's more likely to happen in people with neurodivergency to develop NPD because they're usually not accepted by their, like NPD develops out of shame, right? So if you take shame, a lot of people with ADHD are misunderstood, or like even autism, like there's neurodivergence there where you grow up in a world that doesn't accept you, and then you get bitter, apathetic, shut down, oh, whatever. That's my theory. I would love to do research on it because I have noticed that, I don't know if you know the name of the narcissist. He has ADHD, Jacob.
Oh,
Yeah, the nameless narcissist. He's another creator. I love
Simple.
him.
He
But
actually mentioned you in one of the
of course
emails.
he did. He's like my brother. He's like my brother. We go around boosting each
Aw,
other up. Yeah. we boost each other up. I'm like, "Hey, have you heard of Jacob?" And then he's like, "Have you heard of Tess?"
No, it's amazing. It's such a cute like PR, but it's cute. We love we love.
Yeah.
I
No,
love
I
that
love
way.
you. But yeah,
But
it's a lonely world, you know, I mean, NPD is very demonized, and I can understand why. I'm gonna be honest, because the partners are so confused. It's like, what, they don't know why someone's brain is working this way, but still there's a lot of demonization. And me and Jacob just kind of, you know, we felt really alone until we met each other.
aw,
Yeah.
that's a universe thing. I'm sorry. That's a whole universe thing. But
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't think demonizing has ever helped. At least not me. Because it really doesn't help. It's just very temporary. But what's very interesting is I've seen very different kind of narcissists over my life.
I'm
Particularly
curious.
the women are a little more um how do I put this? Okay, they're more unique than the men. The men are sort of very similar, but the women are very like different flavored. How do I don't know.
Everyone has their own experience. I mean, there's definitely different presentations. I have like a group chat full of narcissists. It's a terrifying place. I'm just kidding. And it's like there's 3 women in there with
Okay.
NPD
Okay.
besides me, and every single one of them has a different presentation.
Holy
It's very
shit.
fast. They're all individual people are individuals first, you
Absolutely.
know. But yeah, I'm very curious. Like, is there anything you thought of that you know, like, you were curious on, like, "Oh, how does the mind of somebody with NPD work?" You know, like, I've always been curious about this question, or
Well, what I particularly found in common with everyone was I'm pretty authentic as a person, right? And I kind of get very overly emotional as a person. So they were not believing any of the things I'm feeling were real. They were like, I don't really believe what you're saying, or I know it wasn't coming from a bad place, but um, even if they don't really say it, I never felt like the narcissistic people around me actually believed what I felt
oh
for.
my god, the trust issues.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it
oh
felt
my
like,
god.
and I was like, I can't show you more than that I already do.
I honestly think that, at least for me, you know, I can only speak for myself, but a lot of people with NPD that I've met, it's just, not trusting the person's, you know, it's ironic, but there's a lot of if I think the rest of the world thinks the way that I do. So there's a lot of like, oh, people must all be out for themselves. And, you know, there's a lot of fear that like emotions are just how do I put this? Like you're trying to get something with it, like, you know, like for yourself. There's like a feeling of like, oh, you know, if she's I don't know, like
You're making
I'm
sense.
curious if you wanna give me like I'm curious if you wanna give me a specific example because it's like there's a lot of not trusting the person's actually feeling that way. They're just telling you that to like get whatever they want or something like that, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna give a very I usually don't really give a personal example. Okay, so this was actually a friend who we used to like tell me that I think it's great that you're really kind, right? And I swear we had no problems between each other, okay? Like we used to always chill together, everything was amazing. And one day, I started realizing the people coming up to me and telling me that she's going around and telling everyone that I am love bombing people for some manipulative thing. Because how can someone be nice for no reason? And I was like, I didn't do anything.
Honestly
That-
honestly, yeah, it's suspiciousness, I feel like, you know, not being able to trust. It's
Mhm,
like, um, you know, as I said, there's a lot of trauma in NPD, and, you know, when someone's nice, it's like, "Oh, what they must want something, like, why are they being so nice? They must be, like, trying to, you know, get something
mhm,
by doing this," if that makes sense. Maybe but I believe that in her reality, she really possibly believed you were doing that,
mhm.
but, you know, it's like, you know you weren't, but if you tell the person that, they don't wanna see your reality. They'll be like, "No."
I
Yeah.
I think the minute I realized that I was like, okay, I almost started feeling bad because I don't know, it just didn't add up, but I was like, there's no point proving it's otherwise. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how exactly do you deal with like feelings of shame? Because I mean,
Oh my God.
that's rough. That's
What a question, right? Honestly, I have been wanting to talk about this, but I feel like, have you ever heard of black and white thinking
Oh,
before?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I feel like because of trauma, narcissists get stunted,
Mm-hmm.
and they think in either black and white
Mm-hmm.
terms. So like the white side of it's like, oh, everything's great, I make no mistakes, I'm fine. But then like if you end up I guess like feeling like you're at fault at all,
Mm-hmm.
it switches to like, the black and white thinking of like, oh, I am like awful, I'm imperfect, I'm whatever. It's like there's no middle ground in the thinking, and I think that's why shame is so intolerable for people with NPD. So one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I try and teach is like, okay, how can we think about this in a middle ground? Do we have to believe that one little slip up means that you're imperfect and that your partner could find someone better, because that's what can go through your head, um but like I feel like there's another way to look at things where like you can take responsibility. You
Mm-hmm.
can learn to take responsibility for your actions without feeling like a monster. Like I tell people to think of it like this: you didn't ask to be like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't ask to develop this.
Right.
So you have this now, and you hurt people and you push them away, perhaps with your defenses. Um, there's a middle ground you could get to where you can say, okay, I take responsibility for the fact that I do this in my life. However, it doesn't mean that, I'm a bad person, that I'm shameful, that I'm like, that I'm just worthless, that like people would rather go somewhere else. I mean, a lot of partners really wish that they could just love the person with NPD,
Mm-hmm.
if they would just like communicate with them, or like, you know, yeah, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And
Yeah.
I
I have like a black and white poster. I don't know if I can show it on screen. It's like
hell
up there.
yeah, hell yeah. Could you?
Okay. Let me
Okay.
yeah, let me try and take the laptop up there and everything. I'm
I'm
yeah,
sorry, but thank
like
you.
yeah. Like because it's gonna be hard to see. Um, I don't know if you can see it. Is it backwards? Oh my God.
Oh no, but
It is.
I get the this. Okay, wait, I'm taking a screenshot. This is mad cool.
Thank you. I worked
It's so
really hard
cool.
on I've showed this on my Instagram because it's really, really helpful. There's, is this black or white? Is it balanced? I feel like, if I'm just trying to give example here. Um,
Okay, so just to confirm, is the white part the part where you think you're perfect, or the black part?
the white part. The black part would be like the
Shame.
splitting would be like
Okay,
the
okay.
defenses are like, yeah. So, I'm trying to find a really good one to use. Um, I haven't really written any about relationships, but
You could do all.
basically,
Honestly, this sounds really good.
thank you. But yeah, like over here it would be like, okay, I refuse to take responsibility because if I did take responsibility, it
Mhm.
means that I'm imperfect and shameful, and like there's everyone else is better, and like, there's a lot of like fear if you think in these terms. But if you're able to balance it out and you're able to say, okay, I can take responsibility while also knowing I didn't ask to be like this. However, if I don't do something differently, I'm going to keep pushing people away. Like you have to face reality, I guess. I'm going to come back. I hope you got a screenshot of it.
I did. Thank you for that. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying my best too. It is so early for me.
I
I'm
don't.
like my brain's just catching up.
I just love
Yeah.
the vibe of your room. I'm sorry if that's like a completely.
Oh, what did you say?
I like the vibe of your room. I know this is completely out of context, but
Oh, thank you. I
okay,
love, thank you.
so I
That's
love
very
pink, but yeah, it's very cute. So
thanks.
okay, so tell me one thing. Because this is something I've noticed that uh people with NPD are pretty competitive. So do you like view anyone as like equal as you, or is everyone just like up and down, up and down?
Oh my God. Ooh, so I want to like take you on a journey here because Where this first started is in my family. My parents were they had very high standards. So me and my brothers would compete. Like me and my brother were at war with each other at one point, literally. Like it was bad. It was like who could shame the other person more. So that's where that started. Yeah. And I took that mentality into my relationships because I was constantly feeling like growing up I was undermined. So I had to like fight, like self-advocate for like myself, or else people would walk all over me. So, in relationships, it was really difficult. In my mind, I would have like this special person where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, this person, because of the traits that they have, this is
Mhm.
my equal, but even then, if that partner, upset me or triggered me, it was all over. Like my brain would like split them black, and I would be like, oh my god, they failed me, they betrayed me, I don't know why I ever like, was with this person.
Mhm.
um because there's this very I don't know if that makes sense. There's like this very defensive piece of me that would, even if I tried to view somebody as, you know my equal,
Mhm.
there was always I would always so easily feel betrayed because of my trauma of being, betrayed in the past. Like everything felt like a betrayal.
Mhm.
And it's very subtle too. Like no one really talks about this, but it can be as simple as you bringing something to your partner or your family member and being like, and it's something that threatens their sense of themselves. Like I'm trying to think of a good example, but like my ex one time
Mhm.
came home and told me that he had gotten this position at school where
Okay.
he was like he had been elected to be the leader of a club, and
Okay.
he wanted me to be happy for him and support him, obviously. But
Mhm.
instead I got triggered and I felt like betrayed because, leadership is supposed to be my thing. And
Oh,
like I was like, what are you trying to like, like I was like, where's my place in the world if you're gonna try and also be a leader, like I had very like designated roles for like him and for me, and that was what would make me comfortable.
that makes a
But
lot.
people don't work like that. That's what you end up realizing is like people don't really work like that. So like every time he would like do something or like try to strive for something in his life, I would feel threatened because it made me feel like, I was like god, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I didn't know my place in the world anymore. Like if he was going to also try and be a leader in stuff, it was a very threatening thing to me. So I couldn't be happy for him, and instead, I would go silent, and then all of a sudden I would kind of say little things, mostly for myself, but also to let him know, like, oh, your position really isn't as important as you think. And then that would make me feel more comfortable in
Right.
myself. You know what
Right.
I mean? Because
Right.
I couldn't handle it. I wasn't able to just like,
No,
you know,
I get it.
yeah.
Wait, so I'm very curious. So subconsciously, I don't know if this is conscious, right? Is it
No, that is the worst part. If it was conscious, we would have a lot easier of a time changing. It is so subconscious. I call it like there's this protector piece inside every narcissist. It's like
Mhm.
the ego protector that like, is hyper aware of threats and just like acts, if it sees
Uh,
something. Controlling that piece is actually what therapy is about. And it is so hard because it's so subconscious. It's so quick. It can sneak in there when you don't even know what's happening. It's like, oh, wow, wait, I think I just did that. It's like very, very ingrained,
right.
and that's why it's so hard to change and even realize because, how do I put this? The like the NPD brain, I think, will
Mhm.
rewrite stuff. Like seriously, rewrite it as it's happening because it's too scary to face that you might actually be afraid or like perhaps humiliated or like whatever. So like literally as the thing is happening,
Mhm.
there will be this piece of my brain that's like, you really just feel angry. And I don't even know if this person's right for you anymore. I mean, like there's this piece, I don't know how to, it is too early. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like articulate my thoughts and it is not happening this morning, but
But the fact that it's confusing makes this more intriguing.
okay. Really? Okay. Because it's like there's this piece of your mind
Okay.
that writes a more comfortable fantasy over what's really happening, even if it's like, oh, I'm just like I'm not at all threatened by my partner. I just feel super angry and they disappointed me, and like, or like your brain will actually go and find other things like, oh, well, they didn't like do the dishes, like they don't take care of the house, like they don't like it'll circumvent the actual problem, if that makes sense.
No, no, that makes sense. It
Sense?
feels like
Yeah.
your own protect. It feels like the false protector is actually hurting you. Like the protector is the one that's hurting you. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's the trauma, really, because I think the protector is protecting you from feeling the full weight of the trauma because usually narcissists have humiliation trauma. They may never talk about it. You may not know your partner has that or your
mhm.
family member or whatever. There's always something that causes somebody to develop this, and that's the thing that's unhealed, and it's really difficult. So I think the protector is trying to keep you from seeing that, and feeling it, but as a result, it pushes people away.
Oh no, I
So
got.
it's like it's a choice, really, it's a choice between facing your pain and having your sense of self collapse.
Mhm.
And then you have a chance to work well in relationships, or you get even more defensive, but you don't work well in relationships. It's such a yeah,
I mean, who wants to face pain, really?
nobody.
You
That's
know,
I
all
mean,
the
it's
reality.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, like nobody wants to. It's and it's a lot of people are running right now, like from their pain. It's not just people with NPD, but it's especially hard for narcissists because they're so unself-aware of like their actual problems, you
Mhm.
know? Like you can tell somebody like, hey, you seem to be like this, and they'll say, oh, maybe I should take a look at that. But with cluster B disorders, it's even harder to get the person to like step outside their bubble and take a look at the whole picture, if that makes sense.
Total sense. I don't know. This is a sort of very weird perspective I had, but I think this is something that makes a lot of narcissistic people quite creative. Like I have noticed people with NPD usually being like really good filmmakers or painters or
I
like
make
YouTubers.
music. Yeah, I make music. That's my artistic
I mean,
expression.
okay,
I
could
do.
you send it later so we could promote it?
Oh yeah, of course. I the thing is I have to release my first single. Like I have a bunch on SoundCloud, but I've never released it. And it's part of the perfectionism. It's like, "Oh, what if I release it and like only 5 people see this because I have like 5,000 followers." But it's like
Fine.
anyway, I want to do it. I want to do it. And I definitely would love that. I would love it cuz the thing that you say about the creativity, it's very I'm fascinated that you've noticed that in other people with it.
I,
I yeah.
because actually, here's the thing. I didn't realize this was like I was getting into myself. So, I weirdly have seen every narcissistic um interest or partner in my life as my teacher, subconsciously, right? They're usually so I'm competing too, but you're always above me as well. So I'm always looking up to you, and I'm like, fuck, there's so much to learn from you. Fuck, there's so much to learn from you. And
It's
I've
the ambition, I feel like the ambition of like, oh, we gotta like be something to the world. So it's there, you build a lot of your talent and skills because you're like, I have to be seen in some way or like whatever. There's a drive there. Yeah.
I don't know. So I think I can relate to you a little bit on the perfectionism thing because like it's never happening, right? You can't be perfect, but it's a sad thing to accept. Like, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I have noticed everyone being amazing artists. So I think the flaw comes with a bit of
I love that. I'm gonna go tell my group chat that they're all very creative too.
a
There's that pattern there.
I
Yeah.
think the very few, no, I think only like one or two narcissistic people that I've met that are not really creative. That's sad, but
Oh
um,
no. Yeah, that's
um,
funny.
so
Yeah.
tell me, so could you talk about the part where you okay, this might be more specific for a partner, right? But Where does that switch sort of click? Where like now I don't view the same as before, or
Oh,
never
the
go
switch.
back to before ever.
Yeah, I would say number one, yes. There's always like a possibility. I think you're talking about like splitting, right? Like basically like, oh, you can be going along having a lovely day
Mhm.
with your partner, and then all of a sudden you know, they say one little thing and then you like just all of a sudden, oh, I never loved them. I honestly um I think it's you know, yes, it's always possible for somebody to re-idealize you or like the switch flips back all the time. That's why people say, "Oh, you know, I've noticed there's so many ups and downs. There's good times and bad times."
Mhm.
Because it always goes back to the good times. And there's this for me there was this genuine sense of like I really felt deeply connected to this person. We would be going on like having a lovely day and then all of a sudden they would say something that usually like made me feel like I wasn't being seen the way I want. I would say that's my biggest trigger.
Okay.
Like maybe they would say like, "Oh my God, one of my worst memories." I don't know if I should share this either. It's so bad.
Totally comfortable.
I think I'm comfortable. I've shared it before. It's just hard to talk about every time. But I was at a movie theater with my ex and we were just talking and, you know, enjoying ourselves. And then all of a sudden he looks over at another group of people who are horsing around and he says, "They look like a lot of fun to hang out with." And like the instantly like this
Oh, I get
of
you.
like, "Oh, so am I not as fun? Really? Are you telling me you'd rather go be with them?" He didn't say that. He was just making an observation. And I started freaking out. When I looked at him next, it was like I was really unself-aware at the time, but when I looked at him next, there was this sense of like, you
Literally.
now mean nothing to me. I feel so betrayed, like maybe you're not going to be a good partner for me. It was this instant it's definitely a feeling of betrayal because it's like, okay, like we're out on what feels like this perfect date and this perfect outing, and all of a sudden he points out how other people have something good. Like, oh, they're fun, they're like whatever. Maybe he was the type of person to give compliments to strangers and stuff, and like that would always trigger me because I was like, because you know, there's this survivalist mentality where it's like I still feel that sense of competition because it was so hard to get praise from my parents.
No.
So it's like I felt like there was like you know, you have to like trample over other people to get the thing. And if they're getting some, that means it's taken away from you. It means you're less of whatever, you're less fun, you're less whatever. You're less like if someone else gets called talented,
Mhm.
it feels like it takes away from your own talent. It's so
Right.
messed up. But yeah, it's awful because, you know, the piece of me that was there enjoying the time with him was genuine. So it wasn't like I was just you know, there's this belief out there that it's like, oh, you know, people with NPD love bomb is what it is. And they only do this to suck you into the relationship. They don't actually feel this way. They just you know, they're giving you these good times, right? So that you'll stick around. No, my God, like to me, I'm on an internal roller coaster.
Mhm.
So I just take my partners end up being dragged along for the ride because I already like I feel the genuineness when I feel like I'm in love. I feel just as genuine when I'm like all of a sudden, oh my God, like you've betrayed me. I can't believe I ever trusted you. How could you say this about this other person? You know, like you failed like my image of who you should have been. Like you were supposed to, there's this feeling of like my partner was supposed to make me feel safe and comfortable and praise me and like build me up, not tear me down. And him pointing out someone else's
Right.
attribute feels like being torn down. So this is why I'm trying to put this image out here of NPD as a fragmentation, not as like a con man type of
Uh-huh.
it's fragmentation. It's that bad. It's that insane. We're just insane. You know, there's really and when you're unself-aware, there's no way to like know that this is happening because every self state feels like what has always existed. That's how bad the fragmentation is. It's like if you're in love, if you're feeling loving feelings, that is all that has ever existed. You know, it's beautiful, the relationship's perfect. Oh, my partner's perfect. This is lovely. We're gonna have this perfect little life together. That's so real. And then, you know, when you feel betrayed, all of a sudden you look at this person, it's like you're looking at a stranger. Like you've never loved them, you've never known them. Like, who is this? You know, like who could but it's still your partner, but it feels like a stranger. It's that messed up. And it's like at that moment, yeah, you know, my ex used to say to me, like, he could see, like, the love just, like, drain from my eyes, you know, like, there was no love left in my eyes, and that, like, messed him up. It messed me up because, like, I didn't feel any love anymore, but
Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, it's like, how could that happen if you say you really love somebody? Well, I think that in NPD, like, there's all these fragmented pieces that never got to form a cohesive self, and each one has a different agenda. Each one has a different period, like, they're at a different level of growth, and, you know, there's, like, a piece that genuinely is bitter, apathetic, struggles with empathy. There's also a kind piece that can actually love people, but
Mm.
it's always you know, it's a mess. It's a mess. This is why I feel like, seriously, we need more psychologists to, like,
Help
know how to treat this stuff.
a
Yeah.
thousand. I think what really helps, it helped me personally was to accept like duality of people because it felt very
Very
real even for me to face that, right? Because the initial felt really, really real. So I don't know, it felt extremely real. So I think
That's
I
what messes people up because it feels so real, and it is so real that, like, if it was fake, you can tell. I mean, deep down, excuse me. Deep down, you can tell when the vibe is a little off and someone's, like, kind of not really there with you and, like, loving you, but what messes people up with, narcissistic relationships is that, you know, we really feel both ends. Like, it's not like the good times are fake.
Mhm.
'Cause they're not, you know? They're both, like, genuine expressions, and, I think that healing that requires, obviously, therapy. Like, the one thing I always tell people when they're like, "Should I stay with my partner, my narcissistic partner? Are they in therapy?" Because here's the thing, to heal this without therapy, good luck. It's not gonna be honest. They probably need therapy, because you know, I don't know, it's pretty difficult to heal this on your own, I would say.
It is, but I mean, how long have you been in therapy? Are you in therapy?
I'm part of this 18-month program, um, and I have been in that for 5 months now, but before that, okay, I think the first time I went to therapy
Mhm.
genuinely was after my ego death experience where I was just so miserable, because of what I had, like, seen and what I had faced, like, I was able to see during that time, like, the fact that it felt like everything that people loved about me was, you know, something that I had, like, added to myself. I didn't feel I don't even know how to describe what I saw, but it really messed me up, and that's when I first just went to therapy just to get some relief. I was depressed, and I didn't get along well with my therapist, so I finally just found the
Okay.
first therapist that I've started to build, you know, an actual therapeutic alliance with. It's taken a long time. It's taken a long time. Yeah, thank you.
How do you trust your therapist? Because trust
I
issues, right?
don't. I don't. It's just that I've gotten to a place with him where, you know, I've split on him loads of times. That's what sucks. Like every time that he isn't immediately helpful, my
Hmm.
brain starts freaking out and like, oh my God, what if he's not like the right therapist? It's also like kind of hard to accept. It's been really hard to accept the fact that a therapist could hold something that I don't already have, that I can't already do myself. I hate the idea of even slightly, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's making sense. It's making okay. So is it like you're giving your power away to him?
Yeah, like let me put it this way. Paying somebody I'm gonna say something really controversial, but I feel like people should
Okay.
get a talk to
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Like why am I paying somebody? It's really hard. It's been really hard. But here's the thing, I've actually seen emotional improvement in my life. So I'm also I'm at war with myself because I'm like bitter, but I'm also like, wait, this is working. So, oh my God, like, like, so, and he knows all of this and he's working on, well, why do you feel that way? When did this feeling start? And we're really digging in there.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think that was your question, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I think the war inside is what you exhibit outside, and that's why it feels so up and down even during the relationships, because you're having a war inside as well, right? So why wouldn't there be a war out?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. As I said, it's like you really, you take people along for the ride, like I think there was this statement made that, like narcissists end up making their partners feel like them inside at the end of the relationship because they've been taken on the roller coaster.
Mhm.
They start feeling empty, they start feeling depressed, they start feeling like whatever, because there's a lot of like putting your emotional baggage onto another person, I think, because you don't want to face it yourself. So a lot of partners end up being, yeah, if that makes sense.
That makes some sense. I mean, but I think it does bring out something that was already there, right? Because a healthy person won't really stick around, or
There's that part too.
like
Yeah,
here's the
people
thing,
are trying to hurt people.
I look back and I was like, okay, that was rush as fuck, right? Now, a healthy person would spot that and be like, hey, this is speeding up a little more than it should. But I don't think you're doing okay, this is controversial, but I don't think you're actually doing anything wrong. You're just bringing our own shit out as well. Like it's just out in the open. That's all that's happening. I don't think.
I have this I've always wondered if it's something spiritual, like, you know, because I believe that, yeah, you end up showing each other your mirror wounds and stuff. Yeah, and then it gives each person a chance to heal if they take it, but it's like it's not easy. It's not easy for either person to go through.
I
And,
thus agree.
there's this question of like, when should you walk away from a bad relationship for either person, right? It's hard to, I guess, gauge that or whatever.
That's a plus. I honestly personally believe that it was some sort of soul contract that was there. I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Have the
Yeah,
issues first, and then you'll walk away. And once the lesson is learned, you part ways. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think possibly, or, maybe there's this idea that, I've felt in certain situations, like me and my ex, for example, had this
Mm-hmm.
like it's different with him because I'm now turning around, and I'm one of the first people with NPD to actually like address, how like people never get an apology or certain things from their partner. Actually started to turn around and like heal him from like the relationship that like we had together because it's been really, I don't know how to explain that. It's kind of personal, but yeah, I made the choice to like, we're still talking, and now I'm like, we're both addressing what happened in the relationship, like honestly.
That's
We're
a
communicating about it.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. How are you able to do that without like also kind of um I don't know, it's kind of bringing out like your own shame as well, right? So how are you able to do that without the like at the same time splitting about like with
The
him?
black and white, the
Yeah.
black and white poster. I had to first realize that because I had defenses that hurt people, it didn't make me imperfect. Like I had to realize that it was just something that my defenses were doing to try and protect me, but it was actually driving people away. So there was this sense of it not really being, I guess, like my fault entirely. Like I was able to say, like, look, I'm traumatized.
Mhm.
I behaved this way. I didn't know differently. However, it wasn't working. And if I continue behaving that way, I can't really expect for people to want to work with me or be around or whatever. So I was able to realize the reality of how I was affecting people without like blaming myself, if that makes sense. Like I just knew I had to do something differently, or I would still be miserable. I'd have a miserable life, and I don't want to be miserable anymore. There was this feeling of like, yeah, like we need to turn the ship around. You have to actually like work on yourself. No one's going to take away your pain. I think there's a lot of a sense with certain people with NPD, like, oh, their partner is going to be the one to take away the pain, just like, reflect back to them this perfect self-image, everything will be
Right.
happy, and then they'll live happily ever after. It never goes that way though. Reality doesn't work that way.
Oh my God. I kind of relate to that. Here's the thing. I think there's so much that's relatable.
Of
I grew up with
course.
fairy
Two
tales.
sides of
I
the
fucking grew up
coin.
with fairy tales. So
Two
for
sides
me,
of the same coin. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's why I feel like we attract each other, like whatever you want to call it. Empath, you don't want to use that word, like codependent,
Okay.
even borderlines and narcissists attract each other like this. They're like magnets. And they really are. And it's because of shared wounds and shared trauma. Like we subconsciously all know what it's like to have a bad childhood and grow up that way. So there's a lot of like shared pain, and I think like shared understanding of what it's like, and that keeps the person and like with the empathetic side of things, people want to like help, like they see the pain and they're like, hey, like I want to be there for you, I've been through this myself. And a lot of times, yeah, a lot of times, I'm trying to think like on my side of things, there's this sense of like almost getting angry, I think, when someone tried to like love or empathize with me. It was like anger.
Oh,
Yeah.
can you talk more
So
about
there's all these yeah, I will try. I'm still just becoming self-aware of this stuff, so I'm trying to put it into words.
no, because
But
you were bang on with that. I saw that myself. When I used to like compliment or like show affection, that kind of was a turn off or like was always cause problems. So I never really got that. So if you could talk about that, would be interesting.
yeah, I'll try my best. I'm just, as I said, half of this stuff I'm just realizing myself, and trying to like ponder it, like what the hell is happening. But um, I think one of the things at the very least is, you know, intimacy, fear
Mm-hmm.
of intimacy, because if you allow that affection to actually hit your heart, that
Mm-hmm.
person starts to matter. And if that person starts to matter, they can affect you. And if they can affect you, you lose control. And if you lose control, well, then you're fucked, right? Like I'm sorry. It's like, because like for me personally, I have serious like control trauma because
Valid.
my parents were the type of people, they're not bad people, but they were the type of people who thought that the best way to raise me was to like when they were worried for me, when they cared about me, they would show it through anger and criticism. Like they thought if they could fix my life for me, if they could like control, like there was this aspect of it where I feel like I've already been walked all over most of my life. So one day I told myself, never, ever, ever again. I'm not going to I also had several people betray me. Yeah. Where it's like, I shut off and I'm like, I'm not going to get close to people anymore because when I did,
Valid.
they misunderstood me. They betrayed me. They hurt me, whatever. So I shut off. And I think showing empathy from another person, it feels like a threat again. It's like, hey, if you let this person in, if you let their empathy hit you, if you let their kindness and their love hit you, they're going to start to matter to you. And, if that happens, you're going to start to like be affected by what they say, what they do. If they like reject you, if they betray you, it's going to hurt a whole hell of a lot more. And narcissists already have a fragile self. Like, how much more can that take? Right. Like, so there's this very protective, like, there's another part of it that I don't know if I want to go into, but I can try.
Okay. If
It's
then don't do it. I don't want you to go overboard early in the morning.
thank you. I appreciate it. I am trying my best to be here. But yeah, I can try to talk about it a little bit, but it's the idea that narcissists hate their past self. That's why, people with NPD have gone and done a self replacement because they ended up hating their child self so much. So like there's this feeling of like I think, like, there's a splitting on yourself that no one ever talks about. You know, have you ever read about, like, self-esteem fluctuations in NPD?
Yes, yes, yes.
It's it usually happens very, like, covertly, like, because the person with NPD doesn't want their partner to know that they struggle with this. They may not even not want to know they struggle with this. They might deny it to themselves, but there's this feeling where if you don't feel like you've been reflected back to who you are as, like, someone, like, your perfect self-image or whatever, you
Mhm.
start feeling like it feels like you can only like yourself and love yourself if you are this perfect self-image, right? So if anything else happens, if anything else is brought to you that denies that, it's either anger, but then if the anger gets bypassed, it
Mhm.
goes straight to, like, uncertainty and depression. Well, what if I'm not? What if I'm not this thing, that I love so much? What if I'm actually, like, over here and I'm actually, like, the worst? I don't know, and, like,
Get it?
when I sometimes, the more self-aware I would become, I would go over here into this bad land, and then my partner would try to show me love, and it felt disgusting to me. Like, they were only supposed to love what's over here. This, like, perfect,
Oh, you're not
you know,
the bad crap, yeah.
if that makes sense.
But
Wait,
that makes sense. So like,
so it's like they're trying to give love to something that I feel like, you know oh god, um, that I feel like, they should only give love to me if I have, like, been over here as this perfect self, but, if I don't feel like that and I wake up and they try to give me love, it's, like, almost insulting to me. I don't know how to put it.
no, 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 no. It makes sense because you yourself don't really like that. So if they're like kind of
It's like they're validating the wrong thing. It's
wrong
like,
thing,
no,
wrong side.
yeah, or something, I don't know, it's so complicated. But
I
yeah, I
I
hope
just
that helps
no,
understand.
that's the only thing I literally could not relate to this is not liking your child's self. I mean, you were just a child, so I don't really understand how. Wait, I mean that's the point. Can't really understand that, but
Standards, I mean, well, because for me personally, I had everybody, it felt like, in my life proved to me that my past self was everything bad, ugly, uncharming, untalented, like, basically my past self struggled to capture attention, it felt like. So
uh,
I became somebody who could. That's what I did because I lived, like, my entire childhood feeling invisible, and not only invisible, but when my past self was looked at, there were instances of, being humiliated, like, like, looked at negatively. So it was either looked at negatively or I could barely capture a glance. So yeah, when I first started to get attention in college, I became addicted to it. It was like heaven. It was like I realized, like, I could be seen as worthy and amazing and beautiful and talented, and, like, that became what I was addicted to. And I was also pairing that with not wanting to connect to people because I'd been hurt so badly. So it's like those two things are a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for seeing people as, like, props and, like, just going through your life being like, what can you make me feel? I've lived my whole life not feeling very good. Can you make me feel, you know? Yeah, and it was crazy. You wanna know the level of delusion I was at? I believed I was a good person too. I'd be like, "I'm such a good listener to my friends," as I was thinking about what a good listener I was and
no,
how cute I must be
it's
listening to
okay.
them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? I have had oh god, my life has been so crazy. Like, re I God, it's not even one layer of delusion that I've fallen through, it's like 1,500. Like, every time I thought I was self-aware, and then it was just another layer that I had to fall through. It is a nightmare. This disorder is a nightmare.
Okay, nightmare. Okay, I mean it's valid.
Sorry.
Most
Go
of
ahead.
the people that have told me that their empaths were actually narcissists themselves. So it's okay. The Delulu is very real.
Oh, yeah, I usually think, the word empath is
It's
I don't
annoying.
know.
I'm really telling you, it's fucking annoying. I find it annoying.
I would say it's either code okay, like, hyper empathy is a real thing, but, it can be caused by a lot of things. It can be called by caused, excuse me. It's early. Caused by hypervigilance. It can be caused by, like, ADHD. ADHD people can have hyper empathy a lot easier. It can be caused by a lot of things. So I would say my mind leans towards codependent or borderline usually. And maybe there's some people out here who are just highly empathetic without trauma. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, that's totally possible too, but
I
would
have
those people really
met anyone without trauma. I mean, I
you
have,
haven't?
but, like, they're very like
I
uh,
guess without severe trauma, maybe is what we're trying to go for.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah. No, I think I've just met like really extreme, like traumatized fucking people. There's like no getting down
yeah,
on the ground.
yeah,
Haven't
yeah. We tend to attract one another. All the traumatized people kind of like send out, there must be some sort of secret energy emission going on here. And then some of them are turning around, like, how do these narcissists find me? Well, I'm telling you, it's because like we're all unhealed. You're just, you're putting out that unhealed energy. And
us.
other unhealed people can find a safe space in that, or they find like something in that where they can relate, and then they show up. And I was actually telling Jacob this too. I was like, if you want to stop attracting certain types of people into your life, heal yourself. Because the more that you heal, right? The more that you heal, the stronger your boundaries will be, the stronger your self-esteem will be. And the energy that you put out, the vibration, the energy will be different. It'll be different. And I think that different types of people will start to be attracted towards that, instead of like, you know, the very, very unhealed people.
1,000%. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I just have two more questions before we end this.
Go
And I found it very interesting with you. Okay, so cognitively, I'm not, because I don't know you, right? But cognitively, you seem emotionally intelligent, but emotionally, I don't know if you can apply that. So isn't that seems like a battle? Because you still
Oh, it's a battle. Yeah, like emotionally, I'm gonna be honest. I'm like 3 years old. I'm just kidding. Like, okay, because of my trauma, I froze super early. Like I have memories of being acting pathologically at age 4. So like what does that mean for me, right? Like I feel like I am just starting to grow up again for the first time, but at age like 25. And I
Mhm.
can give the appearance of being an adult. Like I show up to seminars, I go to school, I do that. But if you really dig into my emotions, they're very dysregulated, they're very unhealed. So I try to cover that up as much as possible so I can function as an adult.
Okay.
And I think that like a lot of people have the cognitive thing that you mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of people with NPD, there's a high cognitive empathy, low emotional empathy, because the emotions are not healed. Those are the ones that are dysregulated.
For sure. Actually, you probably have more cognitive empathy than a lot of other people have met. So
I believe it. Please tell me more. Like,
okay.
I believe it because I'm hyper vigilant as hell. Like, if you think about being a narcissist, you have to, if your sense of self is external, you're
Mhm.
looking to other people to show you, like, am I charming? Am I like all the compliments that you need to like feel good about yourself? You have to be able to read people. You have
Mhm.
to be able to like cognitively, like, and in order to, have people in your life. Let
Mhm.
me put it this way. I feel sometimes like 3 mental illnesses, like walking in a trench coat, just trying to hide that. Like I'm a real person, I swear. So how do I even function in the world? I've had to learn to read people so much, because like if I don't know if I could function properly. I'm already like super damaged on the inside. So a lot of my stuff is like covering it up as much as I can so I can like actually get somewhere in this world. And it's sad. I hate this world. We'll go into that. Like I'll go into that at some other point. I hate society. I hate society. Society is going to create so many more narcissists before this is over.
1,000.
Like
It's getting worse. It's really getting worse every day.
we're having a mental health crisis. Yeah.
I don't think internet is helping either. So, um, but I think your cognitive hypervigilance is precisely what will make you a good therapist. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
I've seen it. I had an NPD client in session who at the end of the session she got so slightly triggered, and I don't know if anyone else would have picked up on it, but I saw her face change like in an instantaneous. I could have just let it go, but I was like, "Hey, I think I saw this, this, and this. Do you want to talk about it? And she actually opened up and it became this beautiful growth
Aw.
that like, yeah, because it's nice. I feel like a lot of narcissists feel a lot safer in session with another narcissist because they know they're not going to be judged for like the most symptomatic. Let's just put it this way, like symptoms can be very there's like in the mental health community, unfortunately, there's like pretty symptoms and then there's like ugly symptoms, like the messy symptoms that people judge and demonize and stuff. And if they know that they're in a session with someone else with NPD, they don't feel like they're about to be demonized. You know what I mean? Like what if I have this thought? Am I going to be judged for it? It's pretty bad. A lot of it's about, and I'm not going to do that. I don't know. Like I don't want to expose people. Definitely not going to do that. But there's some things that they come here. They're like, well, what if I do view the world in hierarchies? What if I do feel better than most people?
Mhm.
You know, and I'm able to like I don't judge that because I know why that might happen. I know how it feels. I know that like you feel the safest when you're up here
Mhm.
because if people are worse than you, they can't shame you. They can't humiliate you. They can't judge you. They can't reject you. If they're down here on the ground, if you put them beneath you, you're a
Mhm.
lot safer. You feel a lot safer. You can walk into a room and just own the room if you feel like everyone is lucky that you're there. You know what I mean? Like that grandiosity is super protective.
It
So
is.
I don't judge it. I don't judge it at all. Yeah, go ahead.
That's awesome. I don't know that I mean I would feel comfortable with that energy. I would feel totally comfortable with that energy.
Yo. My discombobulated morning energy.
No, I love it. Just one
Yeah,
last. And
I'll go.
this was something I noticed when you were talking. And now maybe it's because I was a therapist when I didn't know, but every narcissist has obviously ranted to me about their moms, right? Um, like very particularly the mother, right? But you spoke not so badly of your parents. Is that something you are doing because you're self-aware, or
I'm
uh,
I'm trying to heal that because here's what I realized. My parents were not perfect. In fact, they were very far from it. However, they were not. I looking at them,
Mhm.
I think they have strong traits of things because they're traumatized themselves. They had a really, really, each of my parents had a really difficult childhood. But I was able to look at that. I went through a phase of hating them and
Mm,
ranting about them, but it was around like 17 and maybe like early college. And I remember, I think the worst thing I ever did was I looked at my mother
mhm.
time and I said like I didn't love her or something, or like I told her I didn't care that she was crying or like whatever. I've said some awful stuff because I've been shut down at a certain point, but I've started to open back up because I see the whole picture. My parents never learned to really empathize themselves. My mom is more emotional, my dad is more closed off, but both of them struggle with empathy
Wait,
in
wait, wait.
different ways.
What's that? I'm sorry, mom's emotional. I'm sorry, I didn't get
My
that part.
mom's emotional and
Okay.
my dad's more closed off, but they both struggle with empathy, in my opinion, in different ways. My mother has such a hard time like seeing outside of her own view of the world, but she cares so much. But she puts her world onto you. So there's a lot of invalidation that happens with that. And she doesn't see it. She's unself-aware. However, is she a narcissist? No, she's just a hurt person. I don't think my parents are even narcissistic. I think they just struggled a lot. So I took this step. Oh, and my father's another he's just really he actually straight up just closed off to the world emotionally and I could not tell very much if he even loved me or not. Like who knew, right? It's like he had a really hard time, but I see generational trauma. I don't see like hatred for people. I see that my parents struggled just as much to be in this world and that they didn't know how, and they did not know how to raise a kid, and they didn't know how to empathize when they had me. They still struggle with it with my third sibling. He's still in the house. He's the youngest one.
Mhm.
But they're a lot better now. They've actually gotten into therapy. And, I've chosen just personally to forgive them and try to like just because it's healing once you know that they didn't mean it. Like my mother, I think she said one of the most telling things to me ever, which was she said, I don't know what you want from me. I could like, how am I supposed to be there emotionally for you kids? You take me on a roller coaster. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to function. So she basically admitted to me, like at one point, why she could never really be there for us emotionally. She wasn't able to do it. She was too fragile. Is that something I can forgive? Yeah. Because like I have a choice, right? You either like be mad at your parents for the rest of your life for their failures, or you give them a second chance, I suppose. And I think I'm lucky in a lot of ways because my parents they're also trying to heal. You know what I mean? I've made the choice to be like, you know what? I want to see if I can actually feel love for them before they, like feel comfortable around them before they pass away. I don't want,
I get it.
you know,
I get it.
yeah,
Do you think you
yeah.
could be able to
That
do?
was like a really long answer. Go ahead.
Uh,
Like
I just have.
I just ranted for 5 minutes.
I know. Hey, it's not ranting. This is literally what's about, what it's about. So yeah.
Yeah,
So I just have one question because this is something that worked for me. Now, obviously, I know it changes because people are disordered, but because
yeah.
you don't like your inner child, have you ever like maybe like try to like do like a gratitude journal or something where you wrote things that you liked about your inner child? Do you think that could help with developing empathy? Because you're empathizing with yourself. I don't know. That's
Oh my God. That's one of the biggest reasons that it's so hard to treat narcissists because you can't grieve your past if you hate the person who lived it, you know? Like you can't like forgive what happened to like the traumas that happened to your past self if you believed that your past self deserved it. And I've been struggling with that a lot. Yes. Like
yeah.
it's very hard because you go into therapy, people who don't have NPD maybe go into therapy, they learn to develop compassion for their inner child and then they tell their inner child, "Hey, you didn't deserve to be treated like this."
Mhm.
Narcissists, they double down. They're like, "Yeah, you did. You deserved all of this. I'm so glad that I got rid of you." They tell that to your past self.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
like,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
it's like I'm glad I got rid of my past self. They were just that worthless. They were just whatever. I'm great now. Like there's this entitlement that comes with that. It's like, "Oh, since I perfected myself now,
Mm-hmm.
I deserve more than most people, you know? I deserve better than most people because I am better than most people." Like there's this like, "Oh, I built myself. I built myself up into this." But there's also this unacceptance and hatred that remains for the past for your past self. And it's very difficult. I'm struggling with it because I'm struggling with it. I think it's harder to heal when you can't forgive.
Can't forget together.
Yeah. And I
Baby
think
steps, baby steps. I don't know. Maybe
baby steps.
yeah.
We'll see. Check in 5 years. I'm just kidding.
I
We'll see.
even
I'm
if
gonna be in.
who knows? Uh,
Yeah.
do you think it would be easier for you to forgive like your baby self more than like a more grown up self? Because I mean the baby's a baby, right? Like the baby.
I think that that's a good starting point. It was pretty bad for me where like there was no forgiveness for any stage for a while, but things
Okay.
are opening back up. Things are opening back up in therapy where I've been able to look at it like, oh, maybe I don't have to be so like feeling that way towards, a baby. Yeah, like the baby version
Mhm.
of myself. It's like it's a work in progress. But yeah.
We support it.
Thank you. I do thank you for having me, by the way. And I do hope this helps at least some people. Like my drunken my sleep drunk morning ramblings.
Feel like a rambling at all, but okay, that was super fun. This
Thank
will
you.
go on YouTube, and I will share with um you.
Okay.
And thank you for this. This means a lot. Thank you for doing it early in the morning. I just have to say that because it's a lot. Because now, like the whole
You
day,
guys, you're on the other side of the world, right? Like is
it's
it
like
nighttime where
like
you're at?
yeah, it's
That's
like 12 o'clock in the night here.
Oh my God. See, if I had done, wow, I'd have to wake up at like 3 a.m. to like get in the middle of the day for you guys.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So I didn't even bother. Plus, night
well,
time's fun. I don't know.
yeah, well, this was honestly, I'm glad that I could show up even like, with the time difference and everything. And yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a lovely day. Enjoy your
Bye.
coffee. That's coffee, right? Okay, yeah, coffee. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's matcha, but yeah. All right. Bye.